Welcome to Channel 17, the Town of Colonie Government Channel.
I'm Lisa, a 38-year-old wellness coach and recovering compulsive gambler. My life has been full of successful athleticism. In all my years of competing, nothing compares to the 7-year battle I had for life from my gambling addiction and the sense of accomplishment I have today being in recovery. The flirting began in my teens with bingo and lottery tickets and spending hundreds of dollars a week. By my late 20s, I had a problem gambling with internet poker and spending hundreds of dollars a day at casinos. By age 31, I had a full-blown addiction, spending thousands of dollars a week. Lying, manipulating, stealing, followed by pain, shame, and guilt, and I couldn't stop. I was living in New York, my family was in Maine. There were strong stigmas, so I didn't talk about my gambling problem. When I found that gambling was recognized as an addiction, a weight was lifted, but it also gave me an excuse. From the age 32 to 35, I was out of control. Food, alcohol, and relationship abuse complemented my gambling. I spent hours going to casinos. I had my belongings repossessed, had no home, was living in a tent, couldn't pay my bills, was writing bad checks and lying my way through it all. The problem was known, but no one knew how bad. Financial, legal, personal issues were building. I disconnected and sunk deeper into the addiction. I grew up in the state of Maine, Garden of Maine, and from a very young child, I guess you could say that I was kind of a superstar athlete. And two sisters, we were all very involved with sports, and my family was very involved and active with us as well. I could say that we were a middle-class family. Typical family, trying to do the best we can and get by, and being really committed to my sports and my clubs and all the things that I seem to have got myself involved with in school, class president, prom, queen, all the things. I was offered a full athletic scholarship to college to play field hockey and in my own state, and I took that scholarship and did well with that, and got through college and started my own business at the age really of, I think, 24. And from that point forward, that's kind of where the gambling pieces of my life started to get bad. I started flirting with it when I was young with bingo. I think I used to work at the bingo parlor when my mom was going to play bingo, and it was something that me and my mom sort of did together. I got a taste of it and started to play myself when I became the right age to do so. And by the time I was a senior in high school, I was waitressing and had some money to start skipping out of school, actually, to play bingo, and got involved with scratch tickets. That was not something that lasted for a real long time. And once I started my own business, I started making my own money and started going to bingo really 3 times a day at times between the age of 24 and 27. I was spending hundreds of dollars a week, a week to a day in my late teens, early 20s. Primarily the money that I was making through my business. I became a wellness consultant. It was private, which is what I still do now, and which is really what afforded me right straight through to be able to support my addiction. The turning point, I think, for me was a trip that I had taken to Aruba where I started playing video poker and at the casinos, and I actually won $1,200, and I was in the Aruba paper, and they made a big deal out of it, and I was with somebody that I really loved and cared about at the time, and it was a good time, and I think I had just latched onto it as something that was really rewarding for me and something that felt good. And from that point forward, I just found myself continuously in these little tiny cycles, in and out of these little cycles of gambling, spending more money, got involved with internet poker, spending thousands of dollars, and not realizing how much this was progressing through me really in my late 20s. In my 30s, my business was really strong, and I found myself really working to support my addiction and was able to take every penny that I was making and literally was spending thousands of dollars a week at the casinos. Small parts of that were internet gambling, and I found myself going to work primarily just to make money, to gamble. My clients were being serviced, but there was a lot of lying that was going on. I can say that now. It's not easy for me to do, but it's the truth. You know, I did lie my way through my 30s, doing the best I could do to hold down my business, my relationship, and my gambling relationship, which was my priority. The lying was primarily lying to my family and my friends about my need for money because my business was failing, which it wasn't. It was really just my need for money so that I could gamble. When I didn't have money anymore because I spent what I had made that week, it was something that I did was just to lie to my family, my relationship that I was involved with at the time, to make it look as though my business was failing and that I needed help. All the while, it was really just to support my gambling addiction. I did lie to my clients, and that, for me, is a really tough thing to talk about right now. I still have a lot that I need to make up, you know, with that. And they were serviced, but I lied a lot about work. I would go away on 3-4 day, cycles of gambling, and I would lie about why I wasn't able to have an appointment or be there. I was working for myself, and it was private, all one-on-one, and I became very good at it. I became very good at being able to manipulate my way around my schedule, manipulate my way around my family schedule, my work schedule, and just so that I could travel to gamble, and manipulated and lied, I would say, to everyone, including myself. There wasn't any person in my life that has been a part of my life that hasn't been affected by this, or that hasn't been lied to. And it was a great deal of my adult life that has been spent lying to cover up my gambling addiction. The shame and guilt, I still have it today. That I'm in recovery now, so I'm learning to deal with that and to accept it. But in the time when you're actually gambling and you're in your cycles, the shame and guilt become something that you don't want to live with yourself anymore. I mean, there's a tremendous amount from the time you wake up in the morning till the time you go to bed, but you still find yourself doing whatever you can to get your fix. And that's where the vicious cycle happened for me, and that's where the progression of this to a point of me wanting to take my own life, that's where it all begins. I mean, you feel such remorse and disappointment in yourself, and you're letting people down, and you've got this thing wrapped around your neck that you can't shake. And here I am, a professional woman who has a clientele putting on this whole persona that I'm well, when inside I'm really hurting and, you know, killing myself literally, and feeling desperate, really desperate and hopeless with the guilt. And the only way that you know how to shake the guilt is to go back to doing the very thing that's causing it, which for me was to gamble. And that's where the cycle for me really started to spiral. It was not even about the act of gambling. It wasn't about money. It was just more or less trying to escape the feeling of shame and guilt with the one thing that I knew I could use to escape. There was a lot of abuse of alcohol, a lot of abuse of food. There was abuse with the people that I was with that complemented my gambling. I would find myself really from the age of 32 to 35, 36 even, drinking. Some people drink with their gambling and some people don't. I happen to use that as a means of being able to probably feel better about it. I would drink from morning till night. I would go days just drinking at the casinos, drinking, you know, before going there, and abusing food as just vicious cycle of trying to, I guess, feel better. I guess it was about me trying to feel better about what I was about to go and do. It's messed up. You know, it's just a messed up thing, but the truth is that there was a tremendous amount of abuse, self-destruction, my need to just want to kick my ass, and treat myself really poorly, and do everything that I possibly could to just neglect myself because I felt so bad about myself. And that's where that went. The financial pieces of my life, they started to deteriorate, I would say, right away. When I look back to my 20s, I wasn't in any trouble, I guess you could say, and I was still finding it within myself to pay things and to do what I should be doing with my money. It didn't last long, and I just constantly found myself digging out of holes, not paying my bills, not caring about paying my bills. It got to a point where I really felt that I would die from this addiction, and I didn't care. It didn't matter to me that things weren't getting paid. It didn't matter to me that my cars were going to be repossessed. I made the choice, in a sense, to live in a tent for 8 months because I wanted to be able to have the money to gamble rather than to live. Now, say that now, I don't know that I believed that then. I think that I believed that I was trying to just create a means of me being able to purge everything and get rid of everything that I owned so that I could just start over. I kept thinking I was just going to start over. But the truth is that nothing was paid. Tremendous amount of debt started piling up. I did have repossessions. I did lose my home. And I made choices. I made choices financially to keep my relationship going with gambling. In February of 2006, after doing a lot of, I don't want to say soul searching, I think that for me it was I started to realize that I knew that this was an addiction and I knew that there was something wrong. And I made the decision to expose it deeper to my family. I held my own intervention in Maine with probably 14 of my family members to let them know how bad things had gotten and what I was dealing with. And I mean, I think at the time maybe it was for a bailout. I'm not sure. They did step forward. They did do the best that they could to understand, and they did help me with some of my financial needs, but it wasn't a money problem. It really was that I needed treatment. I needed to be in some extensive treatment. And I went back to New York try to do all the things that I thought were right. I got involved with therapy, I got involved with outpatient, I made all the phone calls to the state that I felt I should make to try to figure out how to get treatment. I self-excluded myself from casinos, and I started going to some group therapy sessions and working my way through what I thought was me doing what I needed to do to get on top of this. All the while, I knew that there was a piece of me that was still not well, and I was doing it more for other people and not for myself. And I was able to stop. I abstained from the addiction for about 5 months. And when I went back, it was a hard fall. And it was a spiral that lasted over a year. And I had contacted a residential rehab program out of Baltimore, Maryland several times, and just couldn't pull the funds together. I had lost all the confidence in my family and my friends and really wasn't talking much about it. People thought that I was okay when I was still gambling. The lying got worse, the stealing got worse, the mental and emotional pain that I was dealing with was getting worse. And I sunk deep in to a point where I almost took my own life because of it before I was able to go to rehab. I think the hardest part first of all, for me, there was such a weight lifted off my shoulders when I was actually able to go. I've been begging really to go for a couple of years. All the while this was still, taking over, progressing really to that point of just complete desperation and hopelessness. The hardest part of me going to rehab, I think, was knowing that I really needed to focus on the changes that were going to have to take place. There were parts of me, honestly, that didn't care. I really got to a point, when you get to a point where you want to kill yourself, when you get to a point where you try, and you don't, I really didn't care anymore what other people were thinking. I'm not saying it works that way for everyone. Just for me, I made the decision that I was going to stop my life the way I knew it, and I was going to go get help, and I contacted that residential program because I wasn't getting anywhere with the efforts that I was making locally. And I told them, I'm going to be on your doorstep. I don't care what I have to do. So somebody needs to help get me there because I'm about ready to kill myself. Or I was going to steal beyond what I had ever done before. I knew it. You know that what's happening. You do. It's not an intellectual thing. We get it. The fact that it didn't work for me and the fact that I was able to wake up the next day and I was still alive, for me, the only option I had was to let my family know, here's the deal. This is what's been going on. They were not supportive. I got in a major fight with my father about it. We were really battling hard because he was hurting too. Here he is 400 miles away from me. He can't do anything. They've been trying to pull me back to Maine, thinking that this is really what's going to be the solution. And the residential program contacted my parents, and within 2 weeks I was able to be there. I did what I needed to do with work. My family helped me do what I had to do with connecting with my clients. I'm not saying it was done right, but at the time, my life is what mattered. It was a life or death situation for me. And I needed to go away, and I needed to take care of this so that I can come back and be able to sit here now and be able to do what I can do to move forward and to help other people. Rehab is hard. A lot of people don't go to rehab for gambling addiction. There aren't many rehabs out there. I mean, the residential program I went to was a removal for 5 weeks. That was an intensive residential program like people go to for drugs and alcohol. It's what is needed. We need to be out of our environment in order for us to get well. When it gets to that point, maybe if as a problem gambler, you can go to some outpatient. Maybe as a problem gambler, you can go to some group and be able to get on top of it. For me, once it progresses to a certain point, you got to remove yourself. You need to go to treatment. It's really what it's all about. So, is treatment hard? Yes. Peeling away the layers, trying to, understand why, trying to heal the wounds, deal with the unresolved stuff from life, and understand why, your path has led you where it has. Yeah, it's real hard. The hardest part, though, is when you come out. The best part of recovery is feeling confident that I do feel free right now from the addiction. It will always be there, but I like to explain it as it's in me, it's confined in me, and the cap is on real tight. It'll always try to get out. I know it's moving on to try to destroy other people's lives right now. I'm sure it'll come back and try to destroy mine too. But I do feel free in a way that I hadn't felt free before. I don't wake up in the morning feeling the same way or go to bed feeling the same way. I don't feel like it's wrapped around my neck. I feel like there's hope at a time when I didn't feel like there was hope. I actually do. My life isn't great. I have a path of destruction behind me that I'm trying to clear up. And, I wake up every morning realizing that there's never a wrong time to do the right thing. And I'm trying to do the right thing right now. And that involves many things in my life. But I guess that the best part for me is knowing that I do have life ahead of me. And I have hope that it's going to get better. The hardest part is realizing that every single day I have to kind of live my life in a way that keeps me in recovery. And that means change, and that means being aware, and that means taking responsibility to try to right the wrongs of everything that I did in my addiction and everything that it made me do. The hardest part is realizing that I lost so much time, my entire adult life. Really from the age of 24, I'm 39 now. And it's been just since March 2nd, 2009. So, I'm not a mom, and I'm not a wife. I don't have a career. I don't have a home. And I have to deal with that every day. And I have to try to, feel okay with that and realize that, I'm not old, but I certainly do have a path of destruction behind me that would make it, that doesn't make it so appealing, for friends or people to trust me, or, to have a trust in a relationship, have trust with my family. All that stuff is getting better, but it's still, that's why relapse is so prevalent in recovery, is because it's so hard to deal with those things. It's so hard to want to face it. We want to go back to that comfort place and back to that thing that helped us to escape to begin with. But I haven't, and I feel great about that. And I'm working my way through the emotional stuff, and I'm working my way to finding that path of helping other people and helping this nation really understand the destruction of this addiction and the reality of this addiction and the progression of this addiction, and to not take it lightly. And consequences when you're gambling mean something. Consequences when you're doing anything mean something. And when you can't escape it, you need help, and help is out there. There's a lot, I feel, that people don't know about problem gambling and gambling addiction. I don't think people realize the progression of it. I don't think they realize the reality of it. Most people, I don't want to say most people, I've had a great amount of support. I talk about it as much as I can. I'm at the point now in my recovery where I feel like, what do I have to lose? Really, I shouldn't even be here. There's something that almost killed me that is misunderstood, that hundreds of thousands of people are suffering with. What do I have to lose by sharing my story, sharing my experience, and being able to say, there's a lot that we don't know about what's going on with this, that people like me have to be learned from. This addiction requires treatment. The treatment that's available out there is very spotty. And I don't think people respect it the way that it needs to be respected. And really what's important to me is reaching out to the gambler, reaching out to the family of the gambler, and letting them know this is something that's going to progress, this is something that's going to get worse, and it is known to end in prison or suicide. It is the addiction out of all addictions that has the highest suicide rate, recognized as a silent killer. And I can completely understand why. But I don't believe that most people that are problem gamblers at this time realize that problem gambling leads to gambling addiction. If that doesn't get understood by the gambler, the family has to get it, because they're dealing with an illness that needs to be diffused. Something needs to be there in order for this to get better. It's not an irresponsibility. It's not a choice. Nobody would ever choose, regardless of the addiction, to live the life that they're living and to do the things that they do within it. People do things that they would do in their addiction they wouldn't do in a million years. Because we're not clear. Intelligent, yes, we get the fact that something's not right. But when you've got something that's not right, that is within you, that you can't control, you got to wake up. You really need to realize that this isn't going to get better. It doesn't get better without help. And that help can be lots of different things for lots of different people, but if this addiction has run its course and is progressing and is getting worse and the consequences are getting worse, you gotta get treatment. Oh, the advice, trying to give advice to somebody who's wrapped up in a gambling addiction doesn't work. So all I can do for anybody who sees this, who's dealing with a gambling addiction, is to just say that I understand, but that I hope that you can take it from someone who's been there, that you might really want to take some time. You need to consider what's going on. And I can't sit here and convince somebody through a taping like this that they need to look at this a little deeper. They need to realize that it does progress. They need to understand that they're dealing with an illness and that it's okay. Treatment's out there, help is out there. You can pull away from it. I think the biggest message really is to society and to the family members of those who are suffering too and who are in pain because of somebody else's addiction, is that you do have to step in. And it's okay to step in. It's an insidious illness. Many people are angry. Many people get hurt. The things that a gambler does to his family, to his children, to his or her wife, husband, friends, co-workers, it's very destructive. But don't push the gambler out of your life because of it, because they need help. They need someone that's going to step in and help them. They might resist it, but there are people you can call, there are places that they can go. And trying to communicate with your loved one is probably not going to work. You need to reach out to people like myself who have been there. You need to reach out to the programs that are available that truly provide good treatment, and start the ball rolling. Got to start the ball rolling to getting the person into treatment. That is the ultimate goal. The only way to get a person into recovery is for them to go into treatment. And I'm working as hard as I can right now. My life goal at this point is to try to provide as much service as I can to the family members and to the gambler that are out there. I have started a service that is a network, that is a peer service. There's nothing, there are wonderful programs out there, but there's a lot to be said from someone who's been there. And there's a lot I can do to help. If there is anyone out there that's struggling, they certainly can connect with me, and I can send them and start them in the right direction. And that's what my goal is at this point in time, is to really create this program and this service that helps those who are dealing with this, so that we can get their loved one back to having a manageable life again. So as a family member, realize that you're probably being lied to. And as the gambler, if you're going to these meetings, if you're going to therapy sessions, if you're trying to do something about this problem and you're still gambling, you need to take it upon yourself to realize, don't lie to yourself. You don't lie to everybody else, but just realize that this isn't helpful, this isn't getting better. And I think one of the strongest messages that I can send is to just realize as a family member that you are going to be lied to. It's not a pleasant part of this process, but it is a part of the illness. Lying and manipulating is part of this illness because it is a need that they have. And they're going to do whatever they possibly can to fulfill that need, no different than any other addiction that's out there. It's getting the gambler, it's getting the drug addict, it's getting the alcoholic, it's getting the sex addict to that point where they don't feel the need anymore. And there's a process involved with that, and treatment is the only way.
Welcome to Channel 17, the Town of Colonie Government Channel.